Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into Kristen Hanna's really compelling novel, The Women.
Hmm.
Think of this as, well, your shortcut to understanding a vital, often overlooked part of American history. We're talking about the women who served in Vietnam.
That's right. And our mission today really is to pull out the most important nuggets from this story.
Exactly. We'll focus on Frankie McGrath's journey, which is quite something, the raw realities these women faced during the war.
And crucially, that heartbreaking silence they encountered when they came back home.
Yeah, it's a powerful book. It genuinely shifts how you might view that whole era.
Absolutely. And what's so compelling and what we'll dig into is how Hannah kind of reconstructs this narrative. It really challenges that conventional, very male-dominated view of the Vietnam War.
Mm,
This isn't just, reciting facts. It's a deep dive into the emotional world, the psychology of these, well, forgotten heroes.
right. It makes you ask questions about who gets remembered in history, doesn't it?
It really does. Questions
Yeah.
about memory and recognition.
Okay, so let's start with Frankie McGrath herself. When the book opens, she's presented as this very sheltered, well brought up young woman. Sunny Coronado Island seems idyllic.
Completely. Almost naive in a way.
But then her brother enlists, right? And she gets swept up in that patriotic feeling of the 60s. What do you think Hannah is suggesting really pushed her to make that incredibly bold, kind of unexpected decision to become an army nurse?
Well, it's fascinating because Hannah paints this picture of like a blend of things. There's useful idealism, for sure, but also this deep, almost naive sense of duty.
Right.
Her sheltered life, maybe ironically, makes her more open to that call to patriotism that was everywhere then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So her decision to enlist, it's a real leap into the unknown. She wants to contribute, be part of something big, but maybe without fully grasping the chaos she's heading into.
And it's immediate, isn't it? No gentle introduction.
No slow descent. It's an immediate plunge right into the thick of it.
And wow, what a plunge. Hannah really doesn't hold back, does she? She immerses you completely in the war from their perspective.
Oh, absolutely. You feel like you're right there.
You're in the field hospitals, choppers landing constantly, the wounded arriving. You can almost smell the blood, the antiseptic, feel the sweat, the fear.
That constant hum of fear.
They weren't just sitting back, they were right there on the front lines,
Mhm.
healing people, holding the hands of the dying.
And this is where Hannah's writing is just incredible. That whole show don't tell thing, she nails it.
Yeah.
She doesn't just say it was chaotic. She gives you the sound of the helicopter blades cutting through the humid air,
Hmm?
another wounded soldier coming in,
Mm.
or the specific way the nurses had to make impossible choices. Triage, amidst all that noise and trauma.
It's intense.
Totally. She grounds you in that sensory overload. You feel the oppressive heat, the helplessness sometimes, and just the sheer heartbreak of it all. It's like you're almost sharing their experience.
So, after going through all that, the sheer intensity of the war, the book hits you with another emotional gut punch when Frankie returns home. Tell us about that transition. What does Hannah reveal about the aftermath Frankie faced?
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast. It's almost infuriating to read.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah really exposes how national memory often picks and chooses its heroes. It others contributions that don't fit the neat little story we tell ourselves about war.
Right. The standard narrative.
Exactly.
Huh.
And for these women, their role, as vital and unconventional as it was, it just didn't fit the established story of the Vietnam vet.
So what happened?
Their service became this thing shrouded in silence, dismissal, even shame sometimes.
Shame for serving.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it was more than just being overlooked. It felt like an act of erasure from history, even though they were right there saving lives in the front lines.
And that's why the story feels so necessary, right? Hannah isn't just writing fiction here. She's giving a voice to potentially thousands of real women whose experiences in Vietnam were just ignored for decades.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Deliberately ignored in
Yeah.
many cases. She's correcting a huge historical omission.
Yeah.
And in doing that,
Mm.
she shows how suppressing those stories had a real long-term impact on the women themselves, not just on the history books.
But Frankie isn't entirely alone in this issue. Her fellow nurses, Barb and Ethel, they're crucial.
Oh, absolutely vital. They play such a huge role in her journey.
They really leap off the page. Hannah paints them as, fierce, funny, but also deeply flawed. They feel so real.
They do.
And their friendship, their camaraderie, It isn't just a side story. It really feels like the soul of the book.
It absolutely is. It's this powerful bond that's forged under the most extreme conditions you can imagine.
Yeah, forged under fire, literally and emotionally.
Exactly. That shared experience, that crucible, it creates something unbreakable. It's a lifeline when everything else is falling apart.
Hmm.
And Hannah weaves these themes together so well. There's love found in unexpected ways,
Yeah.
but also just so much loss.
So much loss.
Loss of innocence, loss of life, loss of maybe a sense of place back home. But underneath it all, what really stands out is this message of resilience.
Yes, definitely.
It's about finding strength, even when facing this huge injustice, right? It's about the long, hard road of healing after trauma.
And that quiet defiance,
Uh,
remembering when the world basically tells you to forget.
exactly. Holding on to your truth.
Now, thinking about Hannah's writing style,
Mm.
it's incredibly effective. If you read her other books, like The Nightingale or The Four Winds, you recognize that elegant, very emotional, immersive quality.
Her signature style.
Oh, what is it about the women specifically? You feel like you're not just reading about Frankie, you're living it with her. Why does this one feel, I don't know, even more raw, more urgent?
I think part of it is that psychological realism she achieves
Yeah.
and the sheer immediacy of the story.
Okay.
She pulls you into their inner world so completely. You feel their fear, their exhaustion, those small moments of joy they grab onto.
Right.
And the urgency, I think, comes directly from the subject. It's revealing this forgotten history. It feels raw because it's dealing with these unvarnished truths. You know,
Yeah.
trauma, the systemic failure to acknowledge these women's service.
That contrast is so powerful.
It really is. She masterfully shows their heroism in the thick of it and then contrasts it with that shocking dismissal back home. It forces you, the reader, to confront some uncomfortable truths about national biases.
Yeah, it really does. Which underscores the point that The Women is, well, it's more than just a great read. It feels like a foundational story.
Mm-hmm.
The material we looked at even suggested it should be required reading in schools. That says a lot about its importance, doesn't it? For understanding history, the human side of it.
Absolutely. It challenges us to look beyond those dominant narratives we always hear, to acknowledge the full range of courage, the full spectrum of sacrifice that shaped our past.
It's a powerful example of how storytelling can actually correct the record.
And enrich our collective memory. Definitely.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway here? Ultimately, The Women feels like this profound act of historical reclamation.
It really is.
It doesn't just tell the untold stories of these female Vietnam veterans. It kind of forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about how we recognize service, sacrifice, or how tragically sometimes we ignore it.
Which leaves us with a really important question, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you wonder, what other essential stories, what other overlooked histories might still be out there waiting to be told?
Right. Who else have we forgotten?
And what could we learn from those stories if we just made the effort to listen? You know, think about the impact that forgetting, that omission has, not just on the individuals involved, but on our whole national memory, our understanding of who we are.